Welcome to tonight's journey. Tonight, we will travel back together to the Ice Age. Not as archaeologists standing before glass museum cases, but as wanderers moving slowly across a cold, vast land filled with the breath of creatures that have long vanished. Before you lies a silver-gray grassland beneath the light of dawn. In the distance, herds of ancient horses move through a thin veil of mist. Beneath the ground, Brea lies silent like a black hole on the surface of the Ice Age Earth. And somewhere in the wind, a pack of dire wolves is beginning to awaken. Relax your body and come with me through a day in the lives of the giant wolf packs that once hunted across the ancient world. Dawn comes very slowly over the land of the Ice Age. It does not burst forth in the bright radiance of a summer day. It only slips gently over the distant horizon, thin and cold, like a pale silver ribbon spreading across ground still covered in mist. Before you, the ancient world lies still after a long night. There are no cities, no roads, no human voices. Only low, grass-damp earth, scattered shrubs, traces of ice still lingering in the shadows, and a sky so vast that every living creature beneath it seems small. You are standing in North America at the end of the Ice Age, in an era far removed from the first lights ever lit before roads cut across the plains, before human beings gave names to every river, every mountain, every stretch of land. This is a world not yet tamed, a world still breathing with the rhythm of wild animals, cold wind mud, and great herds moving through the early morning mist. You step slowly across the frozen ground. Beneath your feet, the earth is not completely solid with ice. It is soft in some places, firm in others, sinking slightly, where mud lies beneath drier, where the wind has blown through the night. Each step may leave a small mark, and that mark will rest beside countless others. The hoofprints of ancient horses, the heavy tracks of bison, the dragging mark of a wounded animal, the deep round impressions left by giants that passed through very early before the darkness had fully withdrawn. In the distance, a herd of grazing animals begins to move. You cannot see each creature clearly, at first only dark backs shifting through the mist. They move as a group slowly but warily, heads lower toward the grass, then lift again. Ears turn in many directions. In this world, even grazing is not a peaceful act. Every lowered head is a trade. Every second of lost attention could become the final second. The wind blows across the grassland, low and steady. The dry blades of grass lean in waves like gray water shifting under the first light of day. In the sky, a few large birds circle slowly. They are not in a hurry. They know that in a land like this, sooner or later, something will fall. A young animal separated from its herd. An old one unable to keep up. A hunt ending in the grass. A meal the strong cannot keep for themselves forever. This is not a silent world. But its sounds are not loud. They are made of very small noises, one following another. The brushing of grass against grass. The crack of thin ice beneath a distant hoof. Water dripping from low leaves, breath pushing out into the cold air. And sometimes among all those sounds, there is a silence so deep that the feeding animals raise their heads at the same time, because they know they are not alone. At the edge of the grassland, where the light has not yet fully touched the ground, a strip of darkness lies among the low shrubs. At first it looks like a remnant of the night. But then that darkness moves, very lightly, very slowly. A head rises. A pair of ears stands upright. A body quietly separates itself from the gray of the bushes. It is a dire wolf, not the giant monster of legend, not a creature enlarged by imagination after thousands of years. It is a real predator made of flesh, bone, breath, and hunger. It does not need to stand as tall as a bear to make the grassland grow tense. Its presence alone, half hidden in the mist, is enough to change the air. Then another shadow appears, then a third, then a fourth. The dire wolf pack is waking. They do not shatter the morning with savage roars. They simply exist there quiet, as if this land has known them for a very long time. One stands slightly higher, on a patch of dry ground, head turned toward the wind. Another lowers its muzzle to smell the old tracks still pressed into the mud. The others move around one another in short, slow steps without a wasted motion. The whole pack seems like one shared thought divided among many bodies. In the dim light, you can see their breath appearing in thin white streams. It fades quickly, then appears again steady and calm. Those bodies do not glitter, do not feel mythical, do not seem decorated by legend. They belong to the earth, to mud grass, fur, blood bone, and hunting paths repeated across many generations. They listen to the grassland. They listen to distance. They listen to the grazing herds. They listen even to things that make no sound. A prey animal moving more slowly than the others. A herd turning too suddenly. A strange scent just carried in by the wind. A sign so small that in the modern world it might be ignored, but here it could mean the difference between fullness and hunger, between life and failing to survive the next night. The dire wolf pack begins to leave its overnight shelter. There is no chase yet. No prey falls in the first morning light. There is only the silent preparation for a long day. Their paws press into wet grass lighter than their bodies might suggest. Their noses remain low to the ground. Their tails help them keep balance as they move across uneven land. Behind them, the darkness of night slowly retreats from the shrubs. Ahead of them, the grassland opens wide, cold and full of possibility. But in the Ice Age, possibility always comes with danger. Every large prey animal has hooves, horns, weight, and the instinct to defend itself. Every carcass left behind can attract others. Every stream, every low bank, every thick patch of grass may conceal risk. And the dire wolf knows this in the way only a species long accustomed to the world of predators can know. Farther away, the sun has begun to rise higher. Light falls across the backs of the herds, turning the mist around them into a thin veil of pale gold. An ancient horse lifts its head, nostrils flaring. It has not yet seen the dire wolf pack, but perhaps it has felt something. Perhaps only a slight change in the wind, perhaps the whisper of grass moving in a direction where no grass should move. Its ears twitch. Other animals in the herd begin to notice as well. In this world, fear is not an unusual emotion. It is part of the morning. It lives in the way a grazing animal stops chewing, in the way birds rise higher, in the way a hunting pack keeps its distance before moving closer. No one gives it a name, but every living creature understands it. The dire wolf pack continues on. They cross a slightly lower stretch of land where the grass is wetter and the tracks from the night before remain clear. There you can see a layer of memory held by the ground. Hoofprints overlapping one another, leading toward water. A long slide mark, as though some animal once lost its balance. A few small, pale pieces of bone lying near a bush, cleaned by wind and time. No story here is written in words. But the ground still speaks if you are patient enough to read it. One dire wolf stops before an old trace. It lowers its head and breathes in deeply. The others slow down. The air within the pack changes, but only slightly. There is no loud command, no clear call. Only a focus spreading through each body like the surface of still water, beginning to ripple when the wind touches it. But this morning is not yet the time to hunt. The first chapter of the day does not belong to the attack. It belongs to the world opening its eyes. It belongs to the way light touches an ancient land, to the way grazing animals emerge from darkness, to the way predators leave their hiding places, to the way every living creature slowly steps into the same game that has been played for thousands of years. You watch the dire wolf pack from afar and begin to understand that they do not live apart from this world. They are part of it. They do not merely walk across the grassland. They are shaped by that very grassland, by long cold seasons, by great herds, by competition, by hungry nights, by countless mornings when they had to wake and search once more for life. Near a low tree, one member of the pack turns its head back. For a moment, its eyes seem to face you, or perhaps only the space where you imagine yourself standing. There is nothing cruel in that gaze, nothing angry, nothing carrying the meanings humans often place upon wild beasts. It is simply alert, ancient, cautious. The gaze of a creature that has learned to live in a world that offers no mercy. Then it turns away. The pack continues toward the brighter grassland. Behind them, their night shelter becomes once more an ordinary patch of shadow among the bushes. Before them, the long day is opening. Herds of grazing animals are moving. The wind is shifting. The ground is holding thousands of new traces. And somewhere in the vastness of the Ice Age, a hunt will begin when the moment arrives. But for now, we follow only the morning. We follow the first steps. We follow the white breath dissolving into the cold air. We follow the feeling that the entire ancient world is waking at once, slowly, silently, and with a beauty that is almost frightening. This is the territory of the dire wolf, not because they own it in the way humans own a piece of land, but because they understand it through their bodies, their noses, their ears, their paws, and the instincts passed down through many generations. They know where the wind often changes. They know where herds are likely to pass. They know which low places to avoid when the ground is too soft. They know when to move closer, when to keep their distance, and when to wait for the world to reveal its own weakness. The light grows clearer with every moment. The mist slowly lifts from the grass. The shapes of grazing animals become sharper against the pale sky. Far away, a scavenging bird lands on a dry branch and lowers its head to watch the plain. It is waiting too. In the Ice Age, every species is waiting for something. A meal, a sign, an opportunity, a mistake made by another creature. The dire wolf pack moves in a loose line, neither too close nor too far apart. They do not need to crowd together to be a pack. Their bond lies in the rhythm of their movement, in the moments when they stop at the same time, in the way one lifts its head and the others immediately pay attention. It is a quiet coordination learned not through words, but through survival. You can imagine yourself walking behind them at a safe distance, not interfering unseen, only a witness inside the long dream of natural history. Each step carries you deeper into a world that has vanished, but has not fallen completely silent. It still echoes in fossilized bone, in tooth marks, in fragments of skull preserved beneath the earth, in the memory that science is slowly trying to piece together. And when the sun finally rises above the horizon, the Ice Age grassland is no longer a blurred painting. It becomes a vast stage where every living creature has taken its place. The grazing herd in the distance, the scavenging birds in the sky, the cold wind moving through the low grass, and the dire wolf pack, quiet and patient, stepping into the new day. We will not hurry after the hunt yet. We will not rush into collisions, chases, and the chaotic sounds of survival. Let us remain a little longer with this dawn, because here in the stillness, before all disturbance, we can feel most clearly the soul of the ancient world. A vast world, a cold world, a world beautiful enough to be frightening. And in that world, the dire wolf packs are waking like ancient shadows, leaving the night, carrying the breath of the Ice Age in every step. As the sun rose a little higher over the Ice Age grassland, the light began to reveal what in the darkness had only appeared as vague silhouettes. The dire wolf pack was still moving slowly through the low grass. They were not in a hurry. The morning was still long, the wind was still shifting, and the world around them had not yet revealed all the opportunities of the day. But now, instead of watching them from a distance, like dark shadows, gliding through the mist, step closer in your imagination, close enough to see every line of their bodies, every cold breath dissolving before their muzzles, every footstep placed upon the ancient ground. They carry the gait of wild dogs. They have long muzzles, upright ears, low solid bodies born to move through grasslands, shrubs, and uneven stretches of earth. When they turn their heads into the wind, when their noses tremble slightly to catch scents in the air, when their paws touch the ground almost without sound, all of it reminds you of modern gray wolves. But if you look longer, you will notice something else. The dire wolf is not simply a larger wolf. It is an older branch, a stranger one, like a relative that left the family long before the story of gray wolves began to approach the familiar image we know today. For a long time, humans called it Canis dirus, placing it near the group of modern wolves, dogs, and coyotes. But when science became able to read the very old genetic fragments still preserved in fossil bones, that story changed. Its name is now often spoken as Enoxian dirus, a name that sounds more unfamiliar, older, less familiar. And perhaps that is exactly what better fits its nature, because the dire wolf was not merely a large version of the gray wolf. They belonged to an ancient canine lineage that had developed in the Americas over a very long time. They may have looked wolf-like on the outside, like two shadows sharing the same outline when seen from afar. But within the story of evolution, they had been walking their own path for a very long time, so far back that if you could see the family tree of canids, the dire wolf would not stand as close beside the gray wolf as many once imagined. And this makes them stranger, not less fascinating. Imagine that you are looking at a creature both familiar and unfamiliar. A wolf-like body, but carrying within it a much deeper history. A predator that seems to have stepped out from an image we already know, and yet belongs to a world that has completely closed. As it passes before your eyes, it is not merely an animal. It is the living remainder of an evolutionary branch that has vanished. In the morning light, the body of the dire wolf appears more clearly. It is not towering like some beast of legend. If you expect to see a giant creature standing as high as an adult human's shoulder, you would be disappointed. The truth of the dire wolf does not lie in that exaggerated size. It lies in its solidity, in the heavier head, in the stronger jaws, in the feeling that this body was made for a harsh world, where prey was large, competition was fierce, and every meal might have to be won through endurance, teeth, muscle, and patience. Compared with many modern wolves, the dire wolf may have appeared heavier, not heavy in the sense of being slow, but dense. strong shoulders, a powerful neck, a large head, a forceful muzzle. When it lowers itself to sniff an old track in the mud, you can feel as if the front of its body gathers much of its strength into the head and jaws. This was not a body born only to run lightly across snow. This was the body of a species that lived among herds of large, hoofed animals, tough flesh, hard pieces of bone, and contests in which a weak bite would not be enough. The head of the dire wolf is where we can feel that difference most clearly. Look at the skull in your imagination, not as a cold object displayed in a museum, but as the part that once held the breath scent, hunger, and instincts of a predator. That skull was broad and powerful. Its jaws were not only made to bite into soft flesh. They had to withstand impacts, struggles, moments when teeth struck bone meals that were neither clean nor easy. The teeth of the dire wolf, therefore, were not merely weapons. They were tools of survival. You can picture a dire wolf opening its mouth to breathe in the cold morning, its teeth appearing through the white mist. Canines used to hold, to bite, to grip. The teeth behind them helping to cut, tear, and process meat. In the real life of a carnivore, teeth are never perfect forever. They wear down, they can chip, they can break. Every sign of wear on fossil teeth is not just a biological detail. It is a record of meals of struggles over carcasses of hungry days that forced the animal to bite into things harder than was safe. And it is precisely those traces that make the dire wolf feel more real. One member of the pack stops beside a slightly raised patch of ground. Light falls across its fur, but we must be careful here. No one can say with certainty what exact color the fur of the dire wolf was simply by looking at fossils. Perhaps they carried colors suited to open landscapes, to earth-dry grass shrubs, and the cold light of the late Ice Age. But the specific colors remain a blank space that science has not yet been able to fill completely. Let them carry the color of ancient earth, the color of misted shadows, the color of creatures that did not need to stand out in order to survive. A coat that could blend into grassland, into low shrubs, into the cold morning before the light had fully sharpened. They did not need to be beautiful in the way humans might wish. They only needed to belong to this place, and they truly did belong here. The dire wolf once lived across a world far wider than a single location. Their traces have been found in many regions of the Americas, especially famously in late Pleistocene North America. They were not creatures of some mythical forest, not ghosts existing only in a few oral tales. They were a species with bones, with teeth, with history, with a place inside an ancient ecosystem. But what makes people remember them most is not only their existence, it is the number of traces they left behind. Thousands of dire wolf fossil specimens have been found at Brea, where the black earth once preserved an entire library of the Ice Age. Skulls, jaws, bone fragments, all of them allow this animal to step out of the darkness of time more clearly than many other ancient predators. When we speak of the dire wolf, we are not speaking of only a few rare bones. We are speaking of a species with a fossil record so rich that we can see the repetition of their lives across countless individuals. But in this chapter, we have not yet stepped deeply into that place of black earth. We hold it only as a reminder in the distance. A reminder that what we are seeing in imagination is not built entirely from uncertainty. It has roots in real bone, in real teeth, in evidence that remained long after the final howl had faded away. The dire wolf pack continues to move. Now you can see more clearly how their bodies move. They do not leap about, do not waste energy, but place each step upon the ground with the certainty of a species accustomed to living in a harsh world. Their shoulders rise and fall gently beneath the fur, their heads sometimes lowering to read traces on the ground, sometimes lifting to catch scent in the wind. A younger one drifts slightly away from the group and then slowly adjusts its distance again, while an older one pauses longer before an old scent mark. Those small differences make the dire wolf pack feel alive, but the main character here is not a single individual. It is the pack, the species, the shared breath of an ancient bloodline. The strange thing is that the closer we look at the dire wolf, the more we see that they do not need to be exaggerated. The truth about them is already compelling enough. This is a species with a wolf-like appearance, but not a wolf in the simplest sense. They carry a familiar form, yet belong to a distinct evolutionary history. They are not absurdly gigantic, but powerful enough to stand among the most formidable predators of the Ice Age. Imagine a dire wolf passing near you at no great distance. Its paw steps on to the damp ground, not unnaturally huge, but very firm. Its heavy head tilts slightly as it sniffs. Its rib cage moves with each slow breath. Its ears catch sounds you cannot hear. Then it stops and looks toward the herd of grazing animals in the distance, as if reading an invisible map stretched across the plain. That map is not drawn with lines, it is drawn with scent. The scent of prey, of water, of other predators, of old carcasses of its own pack, and of dangers hidden somewhere in the wind. For the dire wolf, the ground is a book, and the wind is a messenger. Every trace, however faint, can open into a choice, an opportunity, or a warning. So, calling them giant wolves is both correct and not enough. Correct because the image of a large pack of Ice Age wild dogs truly evokes a powerful and ancient feeling. But not enough because that name makes us think only of size. The dire wolf becomes far more fascinating when we understand that they were not merely a larger version of the gray wolf, but the final branch of an ancient canine lineage in the New World, one that once existed separately and then vanished when their world changed. The morning continues to pass. The light grows clearer, the mist lifts from the low shrubs, and the herd of grazing animals in the distance begins to spread across the grassland. But the dire wolf pack still keeps its slow rhythm. This chapter is not yet the chapter of the chase. It is the chapter of recognition. Before seeing them as predators, we need to understand that they are creatures of deep time, where every tooth, every skull, every skeleton left behind is a piece of evidence from a vanished world. A new wind moves across the grassland. One dire wolf raises its head, and the others slow as well. In that moment, the entire pack seems like a single body listening. Nothing happens immediately, only the quiet attention that helped predators survive through countless cold mornings. You look at them and understand that the dire wolf does not need to be a legend in order to be memorable. They are memorable because they were real, because they once breathed in the morning mist, once set their paws upon cold ground, once carried in their teeth the marks of difficult meals. They once lived in a world of ancient horses, bison, giant ground sloths, saber-toothed cats, and grasslands stretching all the way to the horizon. When they disappeared, it was not only a species of wolf that disappeared. An ancient branch of the tree of life also came to an end. And as we follow them in tonight's story, we are not only imagining, we are listening to what fossils can still tell. On that morning, the dire wolf pack knew nothing of the distant ending waiting for them. They knew only the wind-sent ground and the hunger slowly waking in their bellies. As their quiet paws left prints across the cold grassland, we feel as though we are seeing not only a pack of predators, but the shadow of an entire ancient evolutionary line moving through the first light of day, beautiful, silent, and more fragile than they themselves could ever have known. The first layer of mist no longer covers the ground like a silver cloth. Sunlight touches the cold land, revealing overlapping footprints in the mud-crushed blades of grass and patches of damp earth still holding the story of the night before. Far away, the grazing animals have begun to spread out in search of food, but their peace is never truly complete, because in this world, every morning can become the beginning of a chase. The dire wolf pack is still moving across that grassland, slow and silent, like shadows that have just stepped out of the night. If you look at only one of them, you will see a powerful predator with a solid body, a heavy head, strong jaws, and each step placed firmly on the ground. But when you watch the whole pack moving together, you begin to feel another kind of strength, deeper and more frightening. That strength does not lie in a single bite or one sudden charge, but in the way many bodies hold the same rhythm, read the wind together, watch the ground together, and turn silence itself into a weapon. The dire wolf pack does not move like a disorderly group of wild animals, nor do they march rigidly like an army. They follow a softer, more natural order, like water flowing around stone. Some move ahead to read fresh tracks, some keep distance along the edges of the grassland, and some stay slightly behind, as if checking the scents left behind. The space between them is not so close that they hinder one another, but not so far that the bond is broken. That is what makes the pack so important. A lone dire wolf can still be dangerous, but a lone animal is always limited by its own body. It has only one pair of eyes, one nose, one pair of ears, and it can see the world from only one position. A pack is different. When many individuals move together, the grassland seems to be read from many sides. One catches a new scent in the wind. Another sees the herd in the distance, changing direction, while one behind discovers fresh tracks on the damp ground. These small pieces of information join together, helping the pack understand the land better than any single animal could. A deep hoofprint may reveal that a large animal has just passed through. A strip of flattened grass may show the direction in which a herd has moved. A patch of churned mud may suggest that somewhere an animal slipped, stopped, or changed direction in haste. To modern human eyes, these traces may seem like scattered details on the ground, but to the dire wolf, they are words in a vast book that the pack has learned to read since it was young. And it is not only the ground, the wind is also a messenger. The wind brings the smell of water-crushed grass, animal fur, prey, old carcasses, and even the scent of other predators somewhere beyond sight. When a dire wolf raises its head and stands still for a few seconds, it is not merely looking, it is listening with its whole body, letting the wind pass through its nose, its ears, its fur, so it can recognize things the eyes have not yet seen. In a world so wide and full of danger, scent can arrive long before sight, and the one who reads scent sooner gains another chance to survive. The pack continues through a lower stretch of grass where the ground is still damp after the cold night. Their paws leave faint marks in the mud, and those marks quickly settle beside countless others left by ancient horses, bison, and the grazing animals that passed through earlier. A younger member of the pack seems drawn by an old scent near the edge of the shrubs. It steps slightly away, but very soon returns closer to the group. No one punishes it, and no clear call is made. It simply learns by moving with the pack that not every scent is worth straying too far for. In a pack like this, experience has great value. The older ones may have lived through many cold seasons, Many hungry days, many failed chases, and many times when they had to turn away from prey too dangerous to pursue. They know that seeing prey does not mean they should immediately charge. They know that a kick from a hoofed animal can break bone, that a blow from a bison can leave a predator badly wounded, and that an injured leg can turn a strong, dire wolf into one left behind. In this world, ferocity alone is not enough because survival also requires patience, caution, and the ability to wait for the right moment. The younger ones learn this by watching. They learn when to lower their heads, to read the traces on the ground, when to raise them to catch the wind, when to stay close to the pack, and when they may spread out a little to widen the field of observation. They learn that a healthy herd of grazing animals standing close together and alert is not an easy target. They learn that prey standing alone at the edge of the herd, moving a little more slowly, reacting a little later, is what deserves attention. These lessons are not passed on through words, but through each day across the grassland, through hunger, failure, and the rare luck of survival. In the distance, the grazing herd begins to change the rhythm of its movement. They are not panicking yet, but their sense of ease has faded. A few heads lift ears, turning toward the wind. A young animal moves closer to the larger ones. An older one stands slightly apart from the herd, walking more slowly than the rest. To human eyes, the scene may still look quite ordinary, like a herd feeding in the morning. But to the dire wolf pack, every small change has meaning. They only slow down, observe for longer, and allow the distance between them to open a little more. One moves around toward the taller grass, another keeps its position near the more open ground, while the rest remain low beneath the pale light. They do not rush to break the quiet, because a chase that begins at the wrong moment can drain the whole pack's strength and bring nothing in return. In the life of predators, the fastest move is not always the wisest. They do not need to roar or display their strength. Their presence alone is enough to change the grassland. When the pack appears at the edge of a grazing herd, the prey must become more alert. When the pack crosses a stretch of land, smaller animals must retreat. When the pack catches the scent of a source of food, weaker creatures may have to wait their turn or stay away. Their dominance is not absolute, because in the Ice Age there is no king that is ever truly safe, but they are a force that every creature around them must take into account. Even so, the dire wolf pack is not a cold hunting machine. Amid the tense steps, there are still very small moments that show they are living creatures together. One lightly touches its muzzle to another's shoulder as it passes. A younger one steps close to an older one for a few seconds before spreading out again. One at the back lifts its head to watch the group ahead before continuing. These actions do not need to be explained as human emotions, but they show that the pack is not only a strategy. It is also a place where individuals rely on one another to understand the world, to learn how to live, and to get through long, difficult days. The grassland ahead begins to open wider. The ground rises gently, forming a low mound that looks down over the grass where the grazing animals are spreading out. The dire wolf pack stops there, not gathered tightly together, but standing apart beneath the morning light. From this position, they can see farther, catch the wind better, and follow the movement of the herd without making the distance too dangerous. Their breath appears in thin streams in the cold air, then disappears very quickly before it can touch the sunlight. The moment is quiet, but it is not empty. Everything seems to be waiting for a sign. The grazing herd waits to see whether danger will come closer. The scavenging birds above wait to see whether something will happen on the ground. The dire wolf pack waits to see if any animal in that herd will slow down, separate, or reveal weakness. The whole world seems to continue as an ordinary morning. Yet beneath that ordinary surface lies a very slight tension, like a rope being slowly pulled tight. This is exactly when we understand why the pack is the key to the dire wolf. If a lone animal tried to approach the herd, it could be detected and driven away very quickly. But when the whole pack is present, pressure comes from many sides. The prey cannot watch only one direction, but must pay attention to many shadows moving around the edge of the grassland. A dire wolf does not even need to charge to disturb the herd because its presence forces the grazing animals to change formation, gather closer, protect the young, or move earlier than planned. Each of those changes can create an opportunity. Perhaps a young animal is pushed outward as the herd gathers. Perhaps an older one walks more slowly when the whole group changes direction. Perhaps an injured individual cannot keep up when the group begins to run. The dire wolf does not need the world to hand it easy prey from the beginning. It only needs to wait for the smallest disorder to appear, then read the path that instinct has known across many generations. But this chapter is not yet the moment when the hunt erupts. What matters now is feeling how everything is prepared before the sound of feet begins to thunder. A chase does not appear out of nothing. It begins long before the prey runs. From the moment the pack leaves its resting place, reads footprints in the mud, catches scent in the wind, keeps distance between its members, and quietly presses the whole grassland into a state of alertness. Behind every violent moment, we often imagine there is always a long period of watching and waiting. The dire wolf pack leaves the low mound and continues down toward the brighter grass. Those along the edges widen their distance slightly, while those inside maintain a steady rhythm. There is no sudden charge, no howl shaking the plain. Only strong bodies quietly adjusting their positions so that the pack is no longer simply a group passing across the grassland, but a circle of pressure slowly forming around the world of the herd. Their terror lies precisely in that calm. A predator that rushes may make the prey flee too soon. An impatient hunter may tire itself before the real opportunity appears. But the dire wolf pack does not need to burn the morning with haste. They can follow, observe, shorten the distance little by little, and wait for the grazing herd to reveal its own weakness. In nature, patience can sometimes be more dangerous than ferocity. You continue following them in your imagination, and the farther you go, the more you realize that the law of the pack is not something strange or difficult to understand. It is simply the way living creatures become stronger together than they would be alone. It is how a young one learns from an older one. It is how many noses read the same wind. It is how many eyes watch the same herd. It is how each individual keeps enough distance to move freely, but remains close enough not to break from the shared rhythm. That law needs no name because it has existed in every step they have taken since long before humans appeared to name the world. The morning slowly leans toward midday, and the Ice Age grassland becomes brighter, wider, but no less dangerous. The dire wolf pack keeps moving forward silent, like a low stream of darkness sliding through the grass. Ahead of them, the grazing herd is moving slowly across the open land. Above, birds still circle in the cold sky. The wind still carries new scents, new signs, new possibilities. And in the middle of it all, the dire wolf pack continues to hold its shared rhythm, neither rushing nor relaxing its guard. When the sun had risen higher over the Ice Age grassland, the world before you was no longer blurred by mist as it had been at dawn. Light stretched across the low fields of grass, touching every patch of damp earth, every fresh hoofprint, every pale breath dissolving from the grazing herd in the distance. It was a scene that seemed peaceful. A herd of ancient horses moved slowly across the grassland, lowering their heads to graze on the dry patches of grass left behind after the cold night. A few adults stood near the edge of the herd, their ears constantly turning in many directions. One young foal stayed among the bodies of the grown animals. Another younger horse, strong but still lacking experience, sometimes stepped away from the group in search of softer grass. From afar, the dire wolf pack had seen everything. They did not charge at once. A true hunt does not begin with impatience. It begins with observation, with choosing the right prey, the right distance, the right direction of the wind, and the right moment when the herd reveals a small opening. In this world, choosing the wrong target could cost the hunting pack a great deal of strength without giving them anything in return. Worse still, a kick from a horse's hoof or a blow from a large animal could injure a dire wolf. And for a predator, a wound in the leg could become a sentence that lasts for many days afterward. They lie low in the grass or move very slowly across uneven ground. Their solid bodies do not show off, and they make no unnecessary sound. One circles toward the edge of the horse herd. Another keeps its distance on the opposite side. The rest move forward, little by little, not close enough to make the whole herd panic at once, but close enough to narrow the space around the prey that has drifted away. If this were a scene filmed from above, you would see that the hunt does not yet look like a chase. It looks like an arc silently forming around the edge of the herd. In the center lies the bright grassland where the horses lower and lift their heads. Around the outside, almost blending into the color of earth and dry grass, low gray shadows move slowly. They do not need to run immediately, because the first thing they must do is not pursue, but separate. The young horse at the edge of the herd keeps its head lowered longer than the others. The distance between it and the main group opens by a few more steps. Not much, but enough for danger to take shape. A grown horse nearby raises its head, sensing something in the wind. Its ears stand upright. Its nostrils flare. Then another horse lifts its head as well. Alertness passes through the herd like a small wave moving across the grass. The dire wolf pack immediately changes rhythm. One wolf accelerates first, not rushing straight into the middle of the herd, but running diagonally to cut off the young horse's way back. Another appears from lower grass, forcing the prey farther from the main group. The rest begin to follow from behind, keeping just enough distance to create pressure. In that moment, the silence of the morning breaks apart. The horse herd bursts into motion. Hooves strike the cold ground in a heavy, urgent rhythm. Grass is trampled flat. Mud flicks upward in small, dark streaks. The breath of dozens of bodies pours into the cold air, dissolving into chaotic white streams behind them. The whole grassland is moving now, no longer a quiet painting, but a flood of survival instinct. The dire wolf pack races after them. They do not run chaotically. This is not the attack of a solitary predator that simply aims straight at its target. Their way of hunting lies in coordination. One keeps pressure from behind, preventing the prey from slowing down. One runs off to the left, forcing it away from the herd. Another blocks from the right, keeping it moving in the direction the pack wants. They do not need to bring the prey down in the first few seconds. They only need to make it keep running the wrong way. From your point of view, the scene feels like a slow-motion film tense enough to take your breath away. The young horse runs in panic, head stretched forward, chest rising and falling, hooves striking hard against the ground. It is still fast, still strong, still able to gain distance for short stretches. But it is no longer running under the protection of the herd. It must choose its own direction, avoid each gray shadow pressing closer, and keep its balance on uneven ground. and that is when the difference begins to appear. A prey animal may be faster over a short distance, but the dire wolf pack does not rely on speed alone. They need endurance, constant pressure, and the ability to make the prey turn again and again until its rhythm breaks. Each time the young horse veers sharply to avoid a wolf at its side, it loses more strength. Each time it tries to accelerate away from the one behind, its breathing grows heavier. Each time it looks toward the herd, the distance from the main group grows a little wider. The horses ahead keep running because the herd cannot stop for one individual that has been separated. That is the cold law of nature. The remaining animals must keep the group safe, protect the young, and preserve those still strong enough to survive. Meanwhile, the young horse is pulled into a race of its own, where every sound becomes sharper, every breath shorter, and every step may decide its ending. The dire wolf pack drives the prey toward lower ground. It is not a strange trap, only a part of the grassland where the earth is softer, where water had gathered after the cold night. If moving slowly, a large animal could cross it easily. But when running in panic, soft ground becomes a traitor. The young horse places a hoof onto a shallow patch of mud. Its front hoof slips slightly. Its body pitches forward and then struggles to recover, but that single broken rhythm is enough for the hunting pack to come closer. One dire wolf closes in from behind. The horse kicks hard. That kick is truly dangerous. It cuts through the air with enough force to break bone if it lands in the right place. The dire wolf pulls back very quickly, avoiding the strike with a short, low movement. As soon as the prey has kicked, another wolf moves in from the side, forcing it to change direction once more. This is not a blind attack. This is a hunt built on making the prey grow tired, confused and unsteady, little by little. Dust begins to fill the air. The film now becomes more urgent. You see the horse's body rushing through low grass, the dire wolves clinging to both sides like gray streaks, sliding close to the ground, the white breath pouring out again and again before being torn apart by the wind. You hear hooves pounding into mud grass, snapping underfoot, and the desperate breathing of the prey trying to hold on to its final distance. There is no music in the real world, but the rhythm of feet and breath creates the tense music of the hunt. The young horse tries once more to turn back toward the herd, but that path has been cut off. A dire wolf does not need to bite. It only needs to appear in the right place to force the prey to turn away. The horse curves in another direction, but there the ground is rougher. It leaps over a shallow channel, its hind legs striking the soft edge of the earth, its body lurching. It remains upright and keeps running, but the rhythm is no longer even. Every step after that is heavier than the one before. The dire wolf pack does not miss the chance. One darts in near the flank, then withdraws to avoid a kick. Another stays close behind, keeping the prey from stopping. They take turns creating pressure, so no one wolf has to risk itself for too long. That very rotation is what makes the hunt dangerous. The prey must face many directions at once, while the hunting pack can pull back, change position, and move in again when the opportunity opens. At last, the young horse loses its balance again. This time, it no longer has enough strength to recover its stride as before. Its heavy body slides across the damp ground, its hooves scraping hard into the mud, its neck stretching upward in one last effort to stay standing. But the pack has closed in. Gray bodies press closer, not like monsters from legend, but like true predators of the Ice Age, exhausted, focused and fierce because of their own need to live. The final moment does not need to be told with cruelty. For the prey, it is the end of a morning that has turned into fear. For the dire wolf pack, It is a necessary meal after hours of tracking, waiting, and spending their strength. Nature is not a simple moral story. It does not have villains and heroes in the way human beings often imagine. Here the horse runs because it wants to live, and the dire wolf pack pursues because it also wants to live. When the sound of hooves fades into the distance, the grassland still seems to tremble faintly after the chase. The horse herd stops far away on a higher stretch of land. They stand as a group, heads raised, breath steaming in the cold wind. They do not come back. After a while, once they understand that danger is no longer following them, the herd continues moving slower now, more cautious, but still forced to go on living. In this world, even fear cannot be allowed to last too long, because grass must still be eaten, water must still be found, and the day is not yet over. The dire wolf pack stands around the prey that has fallen. They breathe heavily after the chase. Their tongues hang slightly from their mouths. Their fur is marked with dust and mud. A few of them look around before lowering their heads. Others keep their distance, as if still wary of the wide grassland around them. The hunt has ended, but danger has never disappeared completely. The scent of fresh blood will travel far on the wind, and in the Ice Age, every smell of food can summon other hungry creatures. Their powerful jaws begin the work they were born to do. Teeth cut through flesh, necks pull hard, shoulders hold balance on the damp ground. This is not a scene of glorious victory. It is a scene of survival. Each mouthful is energy to carry them through the long day, to endure the cold night, and to keep the pack moving in a world that never promises the next meal. From afar, you can see all the traces of the hunt still lying across the ground. A chaotic line of horse hooves cuts through the grass. Dire wolf tracks follow along both sides. A patch of mud has been torn open where the prey slipped. Clumps of grass have been flattened in the direction of the chase. All of it looks like the final frames of an ancient film where there is no narration, yet the earth still records every movement in the language of footprints, breath, and mud. What makes the dire wolf hunt frightening is not exaggerated strength, but the way they turn one small mistake into the final result. A prey animal steps away from the herd. A gap opens. A path back is cut off. A patch of soft ground appears at the right moment. A running rhythm breaks. Each of these things by itself is very small, but when the pack knows how to coordinate and maintain pressure long enough, they become the road that leads to a meal. Sunlight continues to drift across the grassland. Dust slowly settles. Birds above lower their circling flight, as if they have realized that there is a new meal below. The wind carries the smell of blood and animal fur farther away. The dire wolf pack eats while occasionally lifting their heads to listen, because in this world, a successful hunt does not mean peace. It only means the pack has gained a short span of time to live before another challenge appears. And as you watch that scene, you understand that the dire wolf does not need to be a legend to make you shiver. They are memorable because they hunted like real living creatures, knowing how to wait, how to force a direction, how to take turns applying pressure, how to use the land, and how to turn the prey's exhaustion into opportunity. Their hunt is not one single charge, but a chain of precise movements, stretching from the moment the herd is still calm to the moment one individual can no longer keep pace with the rest. The day of the dire wolf pack is not over yet. Ahead, there are other scents in the wind, other shadows on the grassland, and dangers that even a predator must fear. But in this moment, amid the disturbed grass and the cold light of the Ice Age, they have done what their ancestors did through countless generations. They have read the grassland chosen, the prey opened the chase, and turned the strength of the whole pack into a meal. The hunt began with a very small gap at the edge of the herd. It grew into the sound of hooves, into dust, into desperate breath, into wolf shadows clinging along both sides, and then ended in the heavy silence of the grassland after the chase. And when the wind blows once again across the fresh tracks, the world of the Ice Age keeps turning cold, beautiful, and never ceasing to demand that every living creature fight for one more day of life. After the hunt, the Ice Age grassland does not immediately return to silence. It only changes into another kind of silence, heavier and deeper, as though the ground still remembers the pounding hooves that had just rushed across it. The trampled blades of grass lie tilted beneath the pale sunlight. Dust hangs in the air for a long while before slowly settling back down. The wind carries the smell of mud, animal fur, fresh blood, and torn grass far across the plain. The dire wolf pack has had its meal, but their day is not yet over. In the Ice Age, no meal is ever truly separate from the rest of the world. Its scent will drift away. Its traces will remain on the ground. Birds above will see it. Other predators may recognize it. And sometimes the smell of what seems like an easy meal can lead hungry creatures toward a place they do not fully understand. Far away where the ground begins to sink lower and the color of the grass grows darker, there is an unusual stretch of land. From a distance, it does not stand out very much. There are no towering cliffs, no open abyss, no terrifying sound rising from beneath the earth. There are only dark patches of ground lying among the low grass, glossy streaks under the sunlight, places where the earth seems wetter, softer, and quieter than the rest of the grassland. If an animal is thirsty, tired, or being drawn by the scent of a carcass, it may not recognize the danger at once. That place is Brea. In the modern world, this place lies in the middle of Los Angeles, surrounded by streets, museums, vehicles, and lights. But in the age of the dire wolf, it was not a place to visit. It was part of the ancient wilderness, a place where black oil from deep beneath the earth seeped up to the surface, forming thick, sticky pools that waited silently beneath dust leaves, shallow water, or thin mud. And because of that, La Brea was like a black hole on the Ice Age Earth. Not a black hole in the sky, not something swallowing light in the middle of the universe, but a dark place quietly pulling life downward with the clinging force of black earth. It does not need to run. It does not need to hunt. It does not need to make a sound. It simply lies there, low and still, waiting for living creatures to step into it on their own. Imagine the dire wolf pack drawing near that place when the sun has already begun to lean toward midday. The light is clearer now, making the black streaks on the ground shimmer faintly like water. But it is not clean water. It is natural tar, thick and sticky, sometimes hidden beneath dust-dry leaves or a thin film of water after cold nights. For a large animal moving quickly, the difference between safe ground and a dangerous black pool may only become clear when it is already too late. The dire wolves are not foolish creatures. They know how to read scent, how to avoid many dangers of the grassland, and how to tell firm ground from soft ground far better than modern humans can. But Brea is not a simple danger. It is not like the hooves of prey. It is not like the teeth of another predator. It is not like cold or hunger. It is a slow, natural trap, deceptive in its very stillness. Nearby, a grazing animal has become trapped. It may be an ancient horse, it may be a bison, or it may be some other large creature that stepped wrongly into the black earth while searching for water or following its herd. We do not need to state exactly what species it is in this imagined midday scene. What matters is the sight before us, a large body struggling in a patch of ground that refuses to let go. Its legs are held fast. Each time it tries to pull free, the tar clings more tightly. Each time it shakes its body, strength leaves it faster. The sound is not as loud as an entire herd racing across the grassland, but it has a strange power of attraction. A hoarse cry, a heavy breath, a struggle that makes the mud and black oil move in slow ripples. The scent of panic sweat and an exhausted body travels outward on the wind. To hungry predators, it can feel like an invitation. Prey that does not run. A meal almost held in place. An opportunity too easy to ignore. The dire wolf pack stops at a safe distance. A few raise their heads, noses turned toward the wind. One steps closer, but does not move straight in. Its paw touches dry ground, then pauses at the edge of the black zone. It smells. It listens. The ground ahead is not like ordinary mud. It carries a heavier, deeper scent, like oil, old earth, and flesh that has been held there through many seasons. Here the tension does not come from speed but from slowness. After a chapter of hunting filled with pounding hooves and dust, Brea brings the story down into another rhythm. Everything is slower, but more frightening in a silent way. The trapped prey is still moving, but every motion exhausts it further. The dire wolf pack remains at the edge, but every step forward brings them closer to a boundary that is not clearly visible. Scavenging birds begin to circle lower. The grassland around the place grows more crowded in silence because the scent of a trapped creature will not call only one species. A younger dire wolf moves too close. It does not rush in madly. It is simply pulled by instinct, by the smell of meat, by the sound of the prey struggling, by the feeling that what lies ahead is a far easier meal than the hunt that came before. It places one paw on a darker patch of ground. At first, the earth only sinks slightly. Nothing truly frightening happens at once. It takes another step. Then its hind paw is held. It is not pulled down immediately, but caught by a strange, sticky force. The dire wolf jerks its leg upward. The black layer stretches with its claws clinging to fur between the toes and to the soil. It tries to step back. Another paw slips into the softer part. Its body lowers by instinct to keep balance, but that very lowering brings more of its body closer to the ground. The pack behind it grows tense. An older one steps forward, then stops. It can hear the younger wolf's rapid breathing, can see the body trying to pull free from a kind of ground, unlike any prey. But the pack cannot bite the earth to free one of its own. They cannot use strength to tear away the black layer as they would tear flesh. Brea does not fight back, but it does not yield either. It holds everything with its thick, silent stillness. The trapped dire wolf struggles harder, and that is the worst thing it can do. In ordinary mud, struggling hard can sometimes help an animal break free. But in sticky tar, every great movement drains more strength from the body and pulls it deeper. Fur drags through black oil. Legs slip across the soft surface. Muscles born to run across the grassland can no longer find a firm point of support. It does not understand why the ground is holding it. It only knows that it must escape, must return to the pack, must leave the place that is making every breath heavier. The dire wolf pack is no longer the confident group of hunters from the chase before. At the edge of Brea, they become smaller creatures before a danger with no clear shape. They step forward, then draw back. They smell the ground. They circle the black zone, but cannot find any safe way to enter. In a hunt, they can read the prey force direction and take advantage of mistakes. But here, their opponent does not run, does not fear, does not tire, and does not turn its head. It only holds. This is why Brea became one of the most extraordinary places for understanding the Ice Age. Across a very long span of time, those natural black pools preserve the bones of countless creatures. Not only grazing animals that became trapped, but also predators drawn in by the scent of prey. One animal falling in first could become a call to many others. Predators came for the meal, scavengers came for the opportunity, and then some of them were held by the ground itself. So, Brea did not preserve only isolated individuals. It preserved entire chains of interaction from the ancient world. For the dire wolf, this is especially important. Thousands of their fossils have been found in the Brea area, so many that this species has become one of the most iconic images associated with that place. Skulls, teeth, leg bones all remain as evidence that dire wolf packs were once very present in this ecosystem. Perhaps they were drawn by trapped prey. Perhaps they returned again and again across many generations because the scent of food at Brea was too powerful for any predator to ignore. But in our story, let us return to that midday scene. The sun shines down on the black earth. Light reflects from the dark streaks like the skin of some giant animal lying flat against the ground. The trapped grazing animal ahead has grown weaker. Its struggles have become less frequent. The young dire wolf at the edge of the black pool is also beginning to lose strength. It no longer jerks its legs constantly as it did at first, but breathes heavily, trying to pull itself free, little by little, while every effort is answered by the ground with the same clinging grip. One member of the pack gives a low sound. It is not the long howl beneath the moon that we so often imagine. It is shorter, tighter, like a reaction to something that cannot be solved. The others stand around the edge uneasy but powerless. They are a powerful hunting pack on the grassland, but that power has limits. There are dangers that cannot be bitten, cannot be chased, cannot be exhausted, and cannot be defeated through coordination. Brea teaches us that. In the Ice Age, danger does not come only from fangs and claws. It can come from the very ground beneath the feet. A place that looks like mud can hold a body for thousands of years. A black pool lying still can become the fossil memory of an entire age. One wrong step can make even the strongest creature lose control of its own body. The wind blows across that land, carrying the smell of black oil and exhausted flesh farther away. Birds above lower their circling flight. Smaller shadows may appear at the edge of the grassland, though none dares come too close yet. The dire wolf pack still stands there, pulled between two instincts, the instinct to move toward food and the instinct to stay away from the place where the ground is holding one of their own. No choice is completely easy. This is no longer a hunt with a clear path of pursuit. This is a slow, heavy lesson written in tar scent and silence. After a while, the pack begins to withdraw, not because they understand Brea in the way modern humans do, and not because they know this place will one day become a famous storehouse of fossils. They know only that the ground ahead is too dangerous, that one of them cannot get free, and that the scent of food here comes with a risk unlike any hunt they have known. The pack retreats step by step, still turning their heads back, still smelling the wind, still drawn by the scent of the prey, but no longer moving deeper in. The grassland around Brea slowly settles again, but this is not peace. It is the silence of a place that has held too many stories without needing to speak them aloud. Beneath the black earth, beneath layers of time, piled one over another, the bones of grazing animals, predators, birds, and smaller creatures will remain for a very long time. One day, after thousands of years, humans will dig up those fragments of bone, clean away the black layer clinging to them, place them beneath museum lights, and try to understand what happened here. By then, the dire wolf will no longer run across the grassland, but their skulls will still look out from the past. Their jaws will still speak of a life built around large prey and meat. Their leg bones will still recall the chases that once took place. And the number of fossils at Brea will make humans realize that the dire wolf pack was not an imagined shadow. They truly passed through this land, were truly drawn by the scent of prey, and truly faced the silent black hole lying right beneath their feet. The dire wolf pack in our story leaves Brea as the light begins to soften. Behind them, the black land remains unchanged, unhurried, and needing to chase no living creature. It has kept what stepped into it. It will continue to keep. Those natural tar pools are like the dark memory of the Ice Age, where life was held back and across a very long span of time turned into evidence of a lost world. You watch the ancient wolf pack as it slowly moves away from that land. Their steps are slower after a day filled with upheaval. They have hunted, eaten, and drawn close to a place that even predators must fear. And in that moment, you understand that the Ice Age was not terrifying only because of its great beasts. It was terrifying because everything within it could become a trial, prey, enemies, hunger, weather, and even the ground that seemed harmless beneath the feet. Brea remains behind them, black, silent, and deep in its own way. It is not an open mouth, but something like a memory that never lets go. It swallows footsteps, holds bodies, and in the end gives the future something no creature of that age could have known: evidence. Evidence that the dire wolf once truly existed. Evidence that those hunting packs once crossed the grasslands of the Ice Age. Evidence that there are places on Earth that do not need to roar to make the ancient world fall silent. And when the wind of late day begins to move across the grassland, carrying the scent of cold grass and the black oil still lingering in the air, Brea remains there like a black hole on the Ice Age Earth, silently preserving what time once seemed destined to carry away forever. As the dire wolf pack moved away from the black land of Brea, the light of the day had begun to change color. Midday no longer held the clear, cold sharpness of morning. It had grown lower, thicker, spreading a faint, tired gold over the grassland. The shadows of scattered trees stretched farther across the ground. The wind carried the smell of dry grass mud, wild animals, and somewhere very far away there still lingered the heavy scent of the black land that had held so many creatures through the ages. And then, at the edge of the grassland, there was a low movement in the trees. It did not move like a horse or a bison, nor did it move like a dire wolf. That shadow was heavier, lower, quieter, like a mass of muscle sliding through the late day light. It did not run. It did not hurry. It stepped out from the dark grass with the confidence of a predator that knew its body was a weapon. It was the saber-toothed cat, Smilodon. In the imagination of modern humans, the saber-toothed cat often appears as one of the fiercest symbols of the Ice Age, with two long canine teeth curving down from the upper jaw. But in the real world, it was not a monster that simply charged at everything. It was a large, powerful predator with a solid body, very strong shoulders, and forelimbs suited for close-range ambushes and holding prey at short distance. If the dire wolf was the strength of the pack and endurance across the grassland, then the saber-toothed cat was the strength of the moment of muscle, of a short but heavy attack. It stepped forward slowly. Light touched its low back and its large head. Each step seemed heavier than the step of a wolf, but not clumsy. It moved as if it did not want to waste even a little strength. Its eyes were fixed on what remained of the meal. Its nose caught the scent of blood. Its whole body did not say that it was in a hurry, but its presence immediately changed the dire wolf pack. One dire wolf raised its head first. Then the others stopped eating as well. There was no great roar at once. There was no scene of the two species rushing into one another like a battlefield painting. The truth of nature is often more tense because it is more cautious. A wound in this world could last many days and might even leave a predator unable to keep up with its pack or no longer strong enough to hunt. So before teeth and claws touched both sides, had to consider the cost. The dire wolf pack had numbers. The saber-toothed cat had the strength of its body and the power of a close strike. Imagine the scene like a wide, slow film. In the center lies the remaining food on a patch of trampled grass. On one side is the dire wolf pack, low-bodied, spread out in a loose circle, their eyes fixed on the newcomer. On the other side is Smilodon, standing near the shade of the trees, head slightly lowered, shoulders thick and strong, its saber teeth faintly visible in the slanted light. Above them, scavenging birds still circle like the most patient watchers of the day. It is precisely the fact that nothing happens that makes the scene heavier. The dire wolf knows that the great cat is dangerous. Smilodon also knows that a pack of ancient wolves is not something to take lightly. Alone, it may be very strong, but if harassed by many individuals from many sides, forced to turn again and again, and drawn into a struggle longer than it wants, its advantage may weaken. In return, the dire wolf pack also understands that one accurate swipe of the claws or one powerful bite at close range could badly injure one of its members. One dire wolf steps to the left, another moves diagonally to the right. They do not charge at Smilodon, but do what they often do very well, create pressure. They make their opponent pay attention to many directions at once. One lowers its head, steps closer, then stops. Another moves forward a few steps and then retreats. These movements are not meant to end the confrontation immediately, but to test the big cat's reaction to see whether it truly wants to hold this position. Smilodon does not retreat at once. It opens its mouth, revealing its two long canines, and releases a low sound from its throat. There is no need to imagine that sound as a roar that shakes the ground. A short, deep, heavy threat is enough to make the air before it feel different. It angles its body, turning its shoulder toward the dire wolf pack, as if reminding them that if any one of them comes too close, the distance will close very quickly. The dire wolf pack slows down. A few take half a step back, but they do not leave. They are still hungry, or at least still held there by the source of food. On the grassland, food can never be treated as something small. A remaining piece of meat may give the pack more energy for the evening. It may be the difference between a night of rest and a night spent walking on through the cold. So the pack does not want to abandon it too easily. Both sides begin to circle one another, not in a perfect circle, but in a slow, tense movement, full of caution. Smilodon keeps its position closer to the food. The dire wolf pack spreads wider in a loose shape around the outside. One ancient wolf tries to approach from behind the big cat, but Smilodon turns very quickly for such a heavy body. Its shoulders coil, its head lowers, its front claws ready. The dire wolf pulls back immediately, avoiding turning the test into a real price. This is not a fight to prove who is stronger. This is a negotiation through the body. In nature, many confrontations end without both sides fighting to the end. The one that can make the opponent feel the price is too high may keep the food, or at least take the better share. A growl, a step forward, a false charge, an unfinished encirclement, all of them are language. Each side is saying to the other, if you come closer, you will pay. A young direwolf seems impatient. It moves too close, perhaps pulled by the smell of food and the tension of the moment. Smilodon instantly bursts forward a short distance. Not a long chase, but an extremely fast explosion, over a few steps enough to close the gap and make the dire wolf startle backward. Grass tears beneath its feet. A brief growl breaks out. The ancient wolf escapes, but only just. It returns to the pack body, lowered breath more visible. But Smilodon cannot be too hasty either. If it chases one wolf too far, the others may move into the food, or worse, it may be drawn away from its favorable position. It is not a creature built to run for long distances and turn constantly between many opponents the way the dire wolf pack can. Its strength lies at close range in the grip, in the moments when the whole body can pour force into one target. So it too must conserve strength and hold its place. The confrontation therefore stretches on in tension. The dire wolf pack does not charge in. Smilodon does not chase far. The birds above lower themselves even more, then rise again when they see that neither side has yielded. The grassland around them seems held inside one long breath. Every creature waits to see who will step back first. Late day light slides across the backs of the predators, stretching their shadows over the grass like ancient drawings. At last, the dire wolf pack changes its tactic. A few still keep pressure from the front, while two others circle wider to one side, not to attack Smilodon, but to approach the food from another angle. The big cat is forced to turn with them, and that very moment allows the rest of the pack to move forward a few steps. There is no decisive charge, no clear victory, only a slow struggle where every step has meaning. Smilodon stands over the best part of the meal. It has won that position through its presence and its strength. The dire wolf pack retreats a short distance, but it has not disappeared. They can wait. They can return later. They can take the remaining parts when the big cat is full or has left. In a harsh world, survival is not always about taking everything. Sometimes survival is knowing when to avoid a wound, when to accept the smaller share, and when to keep the body whole for the next day. One dire wolf stands on a low mound, looking towards Smilodon. There is no hatred in that gaze, no story of good and evil, only the alertness of a predator weighing its choices. Smilodon lowers its head to feed, but its ears still move slightly, its body still ready to react. Even after claiming the food, it is not completely at ease. In the Ice Age, no predator is allowed to forget that it too is being watched by others. After a while, the dire wolf pack spreads out around the low grass. They do not go too far. A few search for small pieces left along the edge of the area. Some lie down to rest in the shade of sparse trees, though their heads still rise whenever the wind changes. The younger ones learn something that afternoon. They learn that not all food can be kept. They learn that a strong rival does not always have to be defeated immediately. They learn that on this grassland, sometimes wisdom does not lie in moving forward, but in stopping at the right moment. This is another side of dire wolf life. They do not only hunt, they must also compete, give way test, avoid risk, and live alongside other predators. A world with many large animals is also a world with many meat-eaters. Wherever there are herds of horses, bison giant, ground sloths, or other large prey, there may be many predators following them. Each species has its own way of hunting its own strength, its own limits, and all of them share a vast stage that is never truly easy. The dire wolf has the pack. Smilodon has the strength of the body and the close-range strike. Scavenging birds have wings and patience. Smaller species have quickness and the ability to wait until the larger ones leave. No one stands completely outside that circle of competition. Each species takes a part from the world and then pays for it with vigilance, hunger, the risk of injury, cold nights and mornings when food is uncertain. The Ice Age grassland is not the kingdom of a single species. It is a place where many forms of strength collide, sometimes fiercely, sometimes quietly, sometimes only through one long look between two creatures that do not want to fight but do not want to retreat either. As late afternoon sinks lower, Smilodon finally leaves the food. It does not run. It walks slowly into the shadow of the trees, its heavy body fading among bands of light and darkness. The dire wolf pack does not immediately rush in like victors. They wait a little longer, as though wanting to be certain the big cat has truly gone. Then one by one, they move toward what remains of the meal, more cautious than before, more tired than before, but still patient enough to make use of what is left. The scene is not glorious, but it is deeply real. A large hunting pack feeds after another predator. A saber-toothed cat leaves with the best portion. Birds above continue waiting for their opportunity. There is no eternal king on this grassland. There are only brief moments when one species gains an advantage, and then that advantage fades when the wind changes, when darkness comes, when a new scent appears, or when a stronger creature steps into the scene. The dire wolf pack eats in the fading afternoon light. Their breathing slows. Their shoulders relax slightly after the tension. But now and then one still raises its head to look toward the trees where Smilodon has vanished. In their bodies, the lesson of the afternoon will not become a memory in words, but it will remain as part of instinct. Next time, when the scent of the saber-toothed cat appears in the wind, the pack will know to be more careful. Next time, when a young wolf moves too close, perhaps it will stop sooner. The sun sinks lower. The grassland turns dark gold. The dry blades of grass glow one last time before the shadows of evening begin to spread. In the sky, scavenging birds still circle patient, as though time belongs to them. Far away, the grazing herd has moved out of the dangerous area, leaving only a few small shapes near the horizon. And here, amid the disturbed grass, the predators of the Ice Age have just completed a wordless ritual of survival. You look at the dire wolf pack in the evening light and realize that they are not small, but they are not invincible either. They are strong because they have the pack, because they know how to run, how to force direction, how to read the wind, and how to compete when needed. But they must also yield before another form of power when the price becomes too high. That is what makes them more real, more alive, and more memorable than any exaggerated image. In their world, survival is not a single victory. Survival is continuing to walk after every collision, continuing to listen after every meal, continuing to keep the body unbroken after every encounter with a rival. And when the shadows of the dire wolf pack stretch across the grassland at the end of the day, when the saber-toothed cat has disappeared into the dark trees, when the birds above begin to descend closer to the ground, you can feel clearly that the Ice Age is a world that never belongs to anyone alone. It belongs to those strong enough to seize an opportunity, wise enough to retreat, and enduring enough to wake again for one more morning. The dire wolf pack leaves the place of competition as the final light begins to thin. They move as low shadows through the grass, no longer rushing, no longer chasing, but still always listening. Behind them, where the meal has been divided among many species, the grassland slowly sinks into a new kind of quiet. It is not the quiet of peace. It is the quiet after every creature has taken its share, avoided unnecessary wounds, and continued living a little longer in this vast, cold, beautiful, and unforgiving world. Among predators, the dire wolf is not the only king, but they are an essential part of that ancient darkness where the saber-toothed cat steps out from the edge of the trees, scavenging birds wait in the sky, and every meal can become a test of strength, patience, and the instinct to survive. As late afternoon slowly faded from the Ice Age grassland, the light upon the ground began to thin. The last golden streaks lay slanting across the low grass, then slowly shifted into the blue-gray of dusk. The wind grew colder. The scavenging birds had descended lower after a long day of circling through the sky. Far away, the grazing herd was now only a cluster of small shadows moving toward the lowlands where there was water grass and a fragile hint of safety before nightfall. The dire wolf pack walked through the final light of the day. They were no longer the tense hunting shadows of the morning. After the hunt, after the encounter with the saber-toothed cat, after passing through the black land of Brea, the whole pack carried the marks of a long day upon their bodies. Dust clung to their fur. Mud stained their legs. Their breathing was slower, heavier, yet their ears still listened to every small change in the wind. For creatures like them, rest never meant becoming completely unwary. Night was coming, and the night of the Ice Age was not like the peaceful darkness of a modern room. It was a vast curtain falling over the grassland, over the shrubs, over the cold streams, and the soft patches of ground still holding footprints. When the sun disappeared, the world did not truly sleep. It simply changed hands for a few hours. Species that could see better in the dark began to move. Predators listened farther. Grazing animals stood closer together, eyes wide open, bodies tightening whenever the grass stirred from an unclear direction. The dire wolf pack found a higher stretch of ground where they could stop. From there, they could look down across the dim plain where the trails of grazing animals cut through the grass like old rivers. A few lay down, curling their bodies to hold in warmth. One remained standing longer at the edge of the group, its head turned toward the wind. In the twilight, their forms looked both powerful and lonely, as though an entire ancient bloodline were resting between two kinds of darkness, the darkness of tonight and the farther darkness of disappearance. Because even though today they still hunted, still competed, still lived, as every generation before them had lived, the world around them was changing, not in a single moment, not with an explosion, a great storm, or a clear day of ending. The change came more slowly, more silently, harder to notice. It came in warmer seasons, in altered grasslands, in water sources that shifted their places, in great herds growing thinner, in nights when the dire wolf pack had to travel farther to find old scents, but the ground no longer answered as it once had. A large predator is always tied to the world of its prey. The dire wolf did not live in emptiness. They depended on great herds of grazing animals, on ancient horses, ancient bison, giant ground sloths, and many other large animals that had shaped the rhythm of life in North America near the end of the Ice Age. When those herds were still abundant, when the grasslands were still open, when migration paths were still filled with hoofprints, the dire wolf pack could read the world in the way their ancestors had passed down through countless generations. But when large prey gradually became fewer, that invisible map also began to tear. Perhaps across many seasons, the change first appeared only as small shortages. A herd of horses no longer passed through the same old stretch of land. A group of bison turned away earlier than in other years. A grassland dried out, so footprints no longer held scent as long as before. A stream weakened, forcing animals to scatter farther away. To humans looking back from the future, we call this climate change, environmental change, the decline of megafauna, ecological imbalance. But to the dire wolf pack at the time, it was only a vague feeling that the familiar world was becoming harder to read. They still followed the wind, but the wind carried back fewer scents. They still read the ground, but the ground left fewer stories. They still searched for herds, but the herds were no longer as dense as before. It was a very slow kind of loss, and precisely because it was slow, it was frightening. A species may adapt to many clear dangers before its eyes: a prey animal fighting back a stronger rival, a harsh cold season, a place that must be avoided. But when the foundation of the whole world slowly changes, the skills that once helped it dominate may become less effective. The dire wolf pack was born to live in an age of great beasts, and when that age withdrew, they were drawn along with it. Night had fallen completely. The sky was wide and dark, scattered with stars untouched by any artificial light. On the grassland, the bodies of the dire wolves had become only low shadows, lying close together. Now and then one lifted its head when it heard distant grass move. Now and then the wind brought the scent of another animal, then carried it away again. There was no great noise, no tragic scene to announce an ending, only a hunting pack resting in the dark, as if tomorrow would still be the same as today. But tomorrow for this species would not last forever. When we speak of the disappearance of the dire wolf, we must speak with caution. We should not compress such a wide story into a single cause. We cannot simply say that they went extinct because of climate, nor should we say that humans were the only reason. The end of the Ice Age was a complex time when the climate changed, environments shifted, many large animals declined. Humans expanded their presence across many regions, and ecosystems, already under pressure, began to lose their old connections. Perhaps it was this combination that slowly weakened the dire wolf. If large prey became fewer, large hunting packs would have struggled to survive. If environmental change caused grasslands to shrink or fragment old hunting routes would no longer be reliable. If humans hunted some large animals or changed the landscape through fire pressure on the ecosystem may have increased. If other predators were more flexible in feeding on smaller sources of food, the dire wolf may have been placed at a disadvantage. Each factor was like one small stone added to the back of a species that depended too heavily on the old world. They had once been very successful in their own world. They had strong bodies, powerful jaws, the ability to hunt in packs, and they left behind many fossil traces. They were not a species living at the margins. They were once a major part of the Ice Age picture in the Americas. But success in one world does not guarantee survival in another. When the ground beneath an ecosystem changes, even the strongest predators can lose their place. Imagine many generations passing after this night. It was not one single dire wolf pack falling and then everything ending. It was not one final night when all of them vanished from the earth at once. The last night here is an image for a very long process, in which each generation may have been a little smaller than the one before. One pack produced fewer young. One pup did not survive the cold season. Another pack failed to find enough food to hold its numbers. A land that had once known howls became quieter. Extinction often does not sound like a door slamming shut. It is more like a fire slowly going out. At first, the flame is only a little smaller, but it still gives warmth. Then it weakens through each night, each gust of wind, each time there is not enough fuel. By the time someone realizes it has gone out, that light may have been gone for a very long while. Perhaps it was the same with the dire wolf. No one stood there to record the final individual. No witness knew that the howl they had just heard was the last howl of an entire ancient canid line. The world simply kept turning, and a sound that once belonged to the grassland no longer rose into the air. The dire wolf pack in our story still does not know it is living near the end of an age. They do not know their own name. They do not know that future humans will place them in museums. They do not know that their skulls will be arranged in rows gazed upon by modern eyes and called evidence of a vanished world. They also do not know that scientists will one day read ancient DNA from their bones and discover that they were not simply larger gray wolves, but a separate evolutionary line that had closed forever. They only know that night is falling. They feel the cold that's seeping into the grass, smell the familiar scent of the pack beside them, and know that hunger will return on another day. If they still have enough strength when morning comes, they will rise again, cross the grassland again, and search for scent in the wind, as so many generations before them had done. Perhaps that is what makes the story of the dire wolf so moving. They did not disappear like distant symbols. They disappeared like living creatures that had truly existed. One by one, pack by pack, land by land. They once breathed in the cold night, once ran across the grassland, once hunted, once competed with the saber-toothed cat, once left their bones in Brea, and then finally retreated into the darkness of time. As the night deepens, one dire wolf rises and steps a few paces away from the pack. It lifts its head, turning its nose toward the wind. Above it stretches a star-filled sky, vast and silent. Below it lies the dark grassland, where grazing herds may still be moving far away, where the saber-toothed cat may be resting in the shadow of the trees, and where Brea still silently holds the bones of creatures that never managed to leave. Then the dire wolf howls. It does not need to be an overly mystical sound. Just imagine a deep, long howl blending with the night wind. It is a call to the pack, a sign that they are still here, still part of the Ice Age grassland. That howl moves across the low grass, across fresh tracks, across cold water in the lowlands, and then slowly dissolves beneath the starry sky. In that moment, the dire wolf is still part of the world, but we, looking back from a time far beyond them, know that this howl will one day grow rarer. After many seasons, many generations, many failed hunts, and many disappearing herds, there will come a day when that howl is no longer answered. A grassland that once held ancient wolf packs will have only wind moving through it, and a bloodline that once ran across the Americas will close in silence. Morning will still come. Grass will still tremble in the wind. Birds will still fly across the sky. The species that remain will continue searching for food, water shelter, and a way to pass into a new day. But when the dire wolf disappears, that world will no longer be exactly as it was. A large predator will be gone, and with it the relationships of nature will also change. Prey will change. Scavengers will change. The remaining rivals will have to live within a new order. Brea will still preserve the part of memory that time could not completely carry away. The black bones, the heavy skulls, the teeth that once bit into flesh and bone will remain like letters sent back from a world whose voice has gone silent. Because of them, we know the dire wolf was not a legend. They truly existed, were once abundant, and were among the notable predators of the Ice Age. And their disappearance was part of a great wave of change that swept away many giant animals near the end of the Pleistocene. The dire wolf pack in our story lies closer together as the cold wind blows across the grassland. They do not know that one day humans will look at their bones and wonder why such a powerful species disappeared. They do not know that the answer will not be simple, because it lies somewhere between climate-environment prey, humans' competition, and the limits of a species born for a world that no longer exists. They simply lie beneath the starry sky like all other living creatures. They do not know the future, do not know fossils, and do not know extinction. They know only the warmth of the pack beside them and the darkness covering the grassland. And perhaps it is that simplicity that makes the final part of the dire wolf story so haunting. They did not depart in a great battle. They did not vanish in a glorious moment. They grew fewer with time, with environmental change, with herds becoming less abundant, until a species that once ruled the frozen grasslands remained only in the earth, in museums and scientific research, and in our imagination. The night grows deeper. Wind slips through the low grass, carrying a cold and distant scent. The stars above still shine as they once shone over countless generations of dire wolves before. The ancient wolf pack lies still after a long day, unaware that it belongs to a world about to close. Out there beyond the darkness, great changes are still coming slowly and without stopping. The story of the dire wolf, then, is not only the story of a vanished predator, it is also the story of how fragile all strength becomes when the world changes. A species may be very powerful in its own age, but if its prey disappears, if its environment changes, and if the old balance is lost, then even the deepest howl in the night cannot keep it here forever. That is the last night of the dire wolf. Not one single night in history, but an image for the final chapter of an entire age. An age of cold grasslands, ancient horses, and bison saber-toothed cats in the trees. Brea lying silent like a black hole on the ground. And ancient wolf packs that once stepped through the low grass before vanishing from the world. When the dawn of a new world arrives, the dire wolf no longer belongs to the present. They belong to the earth, to bone, to traces preserved through thousands of years. And in tonight's story, when we close our eyes, we can still imagine a dire wolf pack moving across the Ice Age grassland, powerful, mysterious, silent, and in the end, unable to resist the change of time. And here our journey tonight through a day in the world of the dire wolf slowly comes to an end. From the cold dawn on the Ice Age grassland, we have followed the tracks of an ancient hunting pack. We have seen them awaken in the early mist, silently reading the scent of the wind, trailing great herds of animals, struggling for survival against the saber-toothed cat, and stepping toward Brea, where the black earth quietly preserved the memory of an entire age. The dire wolf does not need to be a monster from legend to send a shiver through us. The truth about them is powerful enough. They once lived, once hunted, once howled to one another in the darkness, and then disappeared as the Ice Age world slowly changed. If you enjoy stories of natural history, ancient creatures, and slow journeys told before sleep, please subscribe to the channel and follow the fan page so you do not miss the next journeys. And if you would like, leave a comment and let me know which ancient creature would you like to hear about next.